My name is Leon, and for as long as I can remember, the piano has been my voice, my sanctuary, and my reason for being. Every note I play feels like an extension of my soul, a story waiting to be told. Life as a musician isn't easy, but the applause and the fleeting moments of transcendence make it all worthwhile. That was before I met her, Lily. It was a rainy evening in autumn, and the scent of damp leaves clung to the air as I arrived at the small theater where I was to perform. The stage was dimly lit, and the soft murmur of the audience faded as I sat before the grand piano. Then I noticed her, seated in the front row. Her hair fell in loose waves around her shoulders, and her eyes, a luminous shade of green, seemed to drink in every note I played. For the first time in years, I felt nervous. I channeled that energy into the music, letting it flow through me and into the keys. When the final note hung in the air, she was the first to stand, her applause echoing louder than the rest. Her gaze met mine, and in that fleeting moment, something shifted. Lily was unlike anyone I had ever known. She worked behind the scenes at the theater, handling lighting and stage design with a meticulous eye for detail. We crossed paths again the following week when she stayed late to adjust the stage lights. I was practicing a new piece, and she lingered near the edge of the stage, watching with quiet intensity. "That was beautiful," she said when I finished, her voice soft but resonant. "What's it called?" "It doesn't have a name yet," I admitted. "It's still finding itself." She smiled, a flicker of amusement lighting her face. "Well, I hope it finds something as beautiful as it sounds." From that moment, Lily became a part of my world. We would talk for hours about art, music, and the small, fleeting joys of life. She had a way of seeing the world that made even the mundane seem extraordinary. For the first time, I felt like someone truly understood me, not just the musician, but the man behind the music. But life has a way of weaving joy and sorrow together, and my happiness was soon overshadowed by an unrelenting shadow. It began with a faint tremor in my left hand, barely noticeable at first. I dismissed it as fatigue from long hours of practice. But the tremor grew worse, spreading to my right hand and making it harder to control the delicate movements required to play. Concerned, I went to see a doctor. "Leon," the doctor said gravely, "after a series of tests, you have late-stage muscular dystrophy. It's a rare form that progresses rapidly. I'm sorry to say that within a year, you may lose the ability to play piano entirely." The words hit me like a thunderclap, leaving me hollow and adrift. The piano wasn't just my career, it was my identity, my lifeline. The thought of losing it was unbearable. I wanted to scream, to rage against the cruelty of it all, but instead, I sat in stunned silence. I didn't tell Lily. How could I? She had brought light into my life, and I couldn't bear to burden her with my darkness. Instead, I resolved to make every moment count, to create something that would outlast me, a piece of music that would carry my love for her long after my hands could no longer play. And so, I began to compose. The most important piece of my life, a melody for Lily, my final gift to her. The days passed in a whirlwind of melodies and moments with Lily. Each day felt like a stolen treasure, and every note I composed carried the weight of my emotions. My condition remained my secret, a shadow hidden behind smiles and laughter. One crisp morning, Lily suggested we visit the countryside. "You need a break from the city, Leon. Let's find some inspiration in nature," she said, her voice brimming with enthusiasm. We drove to a secluded lake surrounded by dense forests, where the autumn leaves shimmered like gold under the sunlight. As we walked along the shore, Lily shared stories from her childhood, how she would escape to places like this when the world felt overwhelming. "There's something about the stillness here," she said, picking up a smooth stone and skipping it across the water. "It's like the world holds its breath, just for a moment." I couldn't help but watch her, mesmerized by the way she seemed to belong to the landscape, as though she were a part of its beauty. "You're staring again," she teased, catching me off guard. "Can you blame me?" I replied, the words slipping out before I could stop them. Her cheeks flushed a delicate pink, and she looked away, a soft smile playing on her lips. That evening, we sat by the fire in a small cabin we had rented. I brought out my notebook, the one where I had begun sketching the outlines of my composition for her. "What are you working on?" she asked, leaning over my shoulder. "Something for you," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes widened. "For me? What is it?" "You'll find out when it's finished," I said with a smile, closing the notebook before she could peek. She pouted playfully but didn't press further. Instead, she leaned against me, her warmth grounding me in the moment. The next few weeks were a blur of stolen moments and relentless composing. My hands betrayed me more often, the tremors growing stronger. There were nights when frustration consumed me, and I would slam my fists against the piano in despair. But the thought of Lily kept me going. I couldn't give up, not yet. One evening, as I struggled to play a particularly intricate passage, Lily entered the room. I hadn't noticed her watching until she spoke. "You're pushing yourself too hard, Leon," she said softly, placing a hand on my shoulder. I froze, my heart pounding. Had she seen the tremor? "I'm fine," I lied, forcing a smile. "Just trying to get it perfect." She didn't look convinced, but she let it go. Instead, she sat beside me, her presence a quiet reassurance. "Whatever it is you're working on, I know it'll be perfect because it's yours." Her faith in me was both a comfort and a burden. I wanted to live up to her belief, even as my body betrayed me. And so, I worked tirelessly, pouring every ounce of my soul into the composition. What I didn't know was that Lily had secrets of her own, secrets that would soon unravel and change everything. The first crack appeared on a quiet Sunday morning. Lily had been distant for days, her usual brightness dimmed by some unseen weight. I noticed the way she avoided my gaze, the way her laughter seemed forced. Something was wrong, but I didn't know how to ask. "Lily," I said softly as we sat by the window of my apartment, the city skyline a backdrop to our silence. "What's been on your mind?" She hesitated, her fingers tracing patterns on the edge of the coffee table. "Leon, there's something I need to tell you." My heart clenched, bracing for the worst. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I've been offered a job. It's a dream opportunity, but it's in Paris." The words hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. Paris. A world away from the life we had built together. I felt as if the air had been knocked out of me. "Paris?" I echoed, my voice barely above a whisper. She nodded, avoiding my eyes. "It's a chance to work on an international production, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I've always dreamed of something like this, Leon. I wanted to be happy for her. To celebrate her success, but the words stuck in my throat. The thought of her leaving, of our moments together becoming nothing but memories, was unbearable. I forced a smile, masking the storm inside me. "That's incredible, Lily. You deserve it." Her gaze snapped to mine, searching my face. "You're not upset?" "Of course not," I lied, the words tasting bitter. "This is everything you've worked for." She reached for my hand, her touch warm but hesitant. "I don't want to leave you, Leon. But I don't know how to stay." Her confession cut deeper than I expected. It wasn't just about the job, it was about the fragility of what we had built. My secret, my failing hands, and now her dream, it all felt like an insurmountable wall rising between us. "I don't want to hold you back," I said finally, each word a stab to my heart. "If this is what you need, you should go." Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she squeezed my hand tightly. "Leon." I stopped her, pressing a finger to her lips. "Don't. Let's not make this harder than it already is." For the rest of the day, we clung to normalcy. pretending everything was fine. But the unspoken truths hung between us, an ever-growing chasm threatening to swallow us whole. As the days passed, Lily threw herself into preparations for her departure. She spoke excitedly about Paris, her eyes lighting up with the spark I had fallen in love with. I tried to mirror her enthusiasm, but inside, I was crumbling. Late one night, as I struggled with the final movement of her composition, my hands betrayed me again. The tremors were worse than ever, and I could barely manage a simple scale. Frustration boiled over, and I slammed the piano lid shut, the echo reverberating through the empty apartment. "Why now?" I whispered to the silence. "Why take this from me now?" The door creaked open, and Lily stepped in, her expression wary. "Leon? Are you okay?" I turned away, wiping at my eyes. "Just tired. It's been a long day." She came closer, her presence a balm and a burden all at once. "You've been different lately. Distant. What's going on?" I couldn't keep it inside any longer. The weight of my secret threatened to crush me, and the words spilled out before I could stop them. "I'm sick. Lily. My hands. I'm losing them. I won't be able to play soon." Her face crumpled, and she dropped to her knees beside me. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't want to burden you," I said, my voice breaking. "You've given me so much light. I didn't want to dim it." She cupped my face, her tears mixing with mine. "Leon, you're not a burden. You're the most beautiful part of my life." For a moment, it felt like we could withstand anything, like our love was enough to hold back the tide. But as dawn broke, reality returned, harsh and unyielding. Paris loomed on the horizon, and my failing hands were a reminder that time was slipping through our fingers. The night Lily learned about my condition, we lay side by side, our breaths mingling in the quiet dark. She held my hand tightly, as though her grip alone could stop the tremors that betrayed my strength. "I don't want to leave you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "And I don't want to hold you back," I replied, though the words felt hollow. "Lily, this is your dream. You've worked so hard for it." Her silence spoke volumes. I could feel her inner conflict, a storm of guilt and longing colliding in her chest. I didn't press her further, though I wanted desperately for her to say she would stay. But the part of me that loved her, truly loved her, knew I couldn't ask that of her. The following weeks were a blur of bittersweet moments. We clung to each other in a fragile rhythm, trying to pretend that time wasn't slipping away. Every stolen kiss, every shared laugh felt like a farewell wrapped in a fleeting present. And through it all, I worked tirelessly to finish her composition, a melody that carried every ounce of love and sorrow I felt for her. One evening, I invited her to the theater where we had first met. The stage was empty, save for the grand piano bathed in soft light. I had bribed the stage manager for some time alone, desperate to give Lily the performance she deserved. "What is this?" she asked, her eyes wide with surprise as I led her to the front row, the same seat where she had once watched me play for the first time. "It's for you," I said simply, gesturing toward the piano. "I've been working on something. I think it's finally ready." Her lips parted as if to protest, but she stopped herself, her gaze softening. She sat down, and I took my place at the piano. My hands trembled as they hovered over the keys, but I forced them steady. This was too important. The first notes rang out, delicate and haunting. The melody told a story, our story. It began with the quiet, tentative strains of meeting someone who sees into your soul. It swelled into a passionate crescendo, a celebration of love's triumph over solitude. And then, as the piece neared its end, the music turned somber, laced with the ache of parting and the fragility of fleeting moments. As I played, the final chord, a soft, unresolved harmony hung in the air, a question left unanswered. I turned to her, my chest heaving with the effort. Tears streamed down her face, and she clapped a hand over her mouth, unable to speak. I wanted to give you something to take with you, I said, my voice raw. A part of me, even if I can't follow. She rose from her seat, crossing the stage to kneel beside me. Leon, this is the most beautiful thing anyone has ever done for me. It's not enough, I said, shaking my head. It will never be enough. She cupped my face, her tears falling freely. It's more than enough. It's everything. For a moment, we held each other, the world outside forgotten. But the clock continued to tick, and soon, the day of her departure loomed like an ominous shadow. The morning she left, the city was shrouded in mist, the streets eerily quiet. I drove her to the airport, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. Neither of us spoke during the ride, the silence heavy with unspoken words. At the terminal, she turned to me, her eyes glistening. Leon, don't say it, I interrupted, my voice cracking. If you say goodbye, it'll make it real. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope, pressing it into my hand. Open this when you're ready. I nodded, unable to trust myself to speak. She leaned in, pressing her lips to mine in a kiss that felt like both an ending and a promise. And then she was gone, disappearing into the crowd without looking back. I sat in the parking lot for what felt like hours, staring at the envelope in my hands. When I finally opened it, I found a single sheet of paper. On it, in Lily's elegant handwriting, was a quote, "Even in the silence, your melody will play in my heart forever." Beneath it, she had scrawled 2 words, "Thank you." As I read the note, my hands began to tremble again, but this time, I let them. The tremors were a reminder of my reality, but they were also a testament to the love I had poured into that final melody for her. But love is never simple, and neither is loss. What I didn't know then was that this was far from the end of our story. Months passed after Lily left for Paris. The days blurred into one another, marked by endless hours at the piano, though my playing had grown increasingly fragmented. My hands, once capable of weaving intricate symphonies, now struggled to perform even the simplest melodies. I avoided the theater, the friends we had made there, and the memories tied to it. It hurt too much to return to the place where our story had begun. Instead, I buried myself in composing, trying to breathe life into the unfinished pieces I had abandoned over the years. But no matter how hard I worked, the music felt hollow. Without Lily, the notes lacked their spark, their soul. Even the melody I had written for her, the one that once felt like a triumph, now echoed through my empty apartment like a ghost, haunting me with what I had lost. One day, as winter gave way to spring, an unexpected letter arrived. It was postmarked from Paris, and my heart leapt at the sight of Lily's handwriting on the envelope. Inside was a short note, "Leon, I've thought about you every day. There's so much I want to tell you, but words seem so inadequate. Please, if you can, come to Paris. There's something I need to show you." At the bottom, she had written an address and a date, just a week away. I hesitated, my mind racing. Was this an invitation to rekindle what we had, or a farewell cloaked in hope? The uncertainty terrified me, but the thought of seeing her again outweighed my fear. I packed my bags and booked the earliest flight I could find. The address led me to a small concert hall tucked away on a quiet Parisian street. The marquee outside bore Lily's name, along with the words, "A Night of Light and Shadow, an original installation by Lily Moreau." Inside, the hall was dimly lit, filled with rows of chairs facing a modest stage. I took a seat near the back, my chest tight with anticipation. The room buzzed with murmurs, but I barely registered the crowd. My focus was on the stage, and on Lily. The lights dimmed, and a single spotlight illuminated the stage. Lily stepped into view, her figure silhouetted against a backdrop of shifting colors. She looked radiant, but there was a new gravity to her expression, a weight she carried with grace. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice resonating through the hall. "This project is deeply personal to me. It's a story about love, loss, and the music we carry with us, even when the notes fade. As the lights dimmed again, the hall was enveloped in darkness. A soft melody began to play, faint and ethereal. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized it. It was the composition I had written for Lily. The music swelled, accompanied by a cascade of light and shadow projected onto the stage. Shapes danced across the walls, abstract yet achingly familiar. A pair of hands caressing piano keys. Two figures walking by a lake. The silhouette of a man and woman leaning into each other, their hearts intertwined. Tears blurred my vision as I realized what she had done. She had taken my melody, our melody, and transformed it into something greater, a living testament to what we had shared. After the performance, I waited as the audience trickled out, leaving the hall empty save for Lily and me. She approached slowly, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Did you like it?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I couldn't find the words. Instead, I pulled her into an embrace, holding her as though letting go would shatter me. "You took my music," I finally said, my voice breaking, "and made it more beautiful than I ever could." "It was never just your music, Leon," she replied. "It was ours." We stood there for what felt like an eternity, wrapped in each other's warmth. But even in that moment, I knew the reality we faced. My condition hadn't changed, and Lily's life in Paris was thriving. Love, no matter how deep, couldn't rewrite the constraints of time and circumstance. That night, we sat by the Seine, the city lights reflecting in the water like scattered stars. Lily reached for my hand, her touch grounding me in the present. "Leon," she said softly, "I don't know what the future holds. But I want you to know that what we had, it changed me. It made me braver, kinder, more alive. And for that, I'll always be grateful." Her words were a balm, soothing the ache in my chest. I squeezed her hand, knowing this might be the last time we shared a moment like this. "You gave me more than I ever deserved," I said. "And no matter where life takes us, I'll carry you with me, in every note, every melody." As the night deepened, we parted ways with no promises, no plans. Just the quiet understanding that some love stories are too profound to be confined by endings. Years later, I sat alone in a sunlit room, my hands no longer capable of playing but my mind still alive with music. Lily's melody remained with me, a constant refrain that echoed through every corner of my soul. I heard she had moved on, found success, perhaps even love. But I didn't begrudge her happiness. She had given me the greatest gift, her light, however briefly it had graced my life. As I closed my eyes, the final chord of her melody played in my mind, resonating with the bittersweet beauty of a love that, though fleeting, would last forever.